Hey, 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 everyone. Welcome to Unapologetically Badass. It's me and Renee, and today we have an amazing special guest. This guest is near and dear to my heart. She has been a mentor to me for many, many years. She has been a very good friend in time of need. I just absolutely love her. She has so much wealth and knowledge to share, the things that she's doing in not only her community, but in the world and on so many different levels. I cannot wait for you guys to hear everything about Stephanie Montalvo's journey. And it's really about being a single mom all the way to her leadership journey, and then also leading a force for PKD. So, Stephanie, I hope I said that right. We're so glad you're here. Please, 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 let's give Stephanie a big welcome. Stephanie, we just want you to tell us about you. Let the audience know who you are and what led you here.
Well, it's funny, before we do that, hi everyone, but I wanted to interject because before we hit the record button, Stephanie and I were just like, oh my God, and like just chit-chatting back and forth. And I'm going like, oh, I can't wait for everyone to hear her. Like it was that instant love fest, you know. I was like, oh my God, she's our kind of people. This is exciting. So welcome. Really happy for you to take the time out.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I mean, it's an honor to be here. So I really didn't know what y'all wanted me to talk about. So you just want me to talk about myself? Is that what you want?
Anything. And it's Stephanie, I know you're an open book like us. That's one reason why you're a guest here, is because we just speak from the heart and we are completely unapologetic. At our age, we're like, look, I'm not going to be sorry for who I am. So why don't you just take us like tell us a little bit about you, your family and things like that, but how you got from where you were to where you are now. I think that's really what everybody wants to hear. And then what are you doing and what's next? Like I think that's what we want to know.
Awesome. Well, sure, I can do that. So let's see. I was born in, no, I'm just kidding.
In a small town back in
the 1900s.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Back in the 1960s.
Yes, exactly. It's so bad when you say it out loud.
Right? It's kind of scary to think about it. Anyway, so yes, I was born a while ago in the town that I actually grew up. I still live in the town that I grew up in. I was actually born in the hospital here in the town that I live in. But I got married very young. I had one son, and I got divorced very quickly. We were only married about 2.5 years. And so I was a single mom for 18 years. And during that time, my very first job, I remember it was for the medical field. I applied. I was making $7 an hour. And I remember when they hired me, they promised me $7.30 an hour. And then when I got there, he was like, we can't quite do $7.30, so it's going to have to be $7. And I said, if in 90 days, if I still want to be here, it needs to be $7.50. So after 90 days, they gave me my $7.50. But anyhow, I worked in the medical field for about 6 years, and I worked 2 jobs trying to support and raise my son. I worked at Mervyn's in the evenings and medical office during the day. And then I took on some side business. The doctor needed collections. And so he said, he referred to me as his bulldog. In fact, today, if you did that, you would have a lawsuit. But he called me his bulldog. And so I went after the money for him, and I collected lots of money, and I got a percentage of old revenue as I collected. And I realized very quickly that I was really good at that. And so at 26 years old, I went out and I got my own letterhead and my own business cards, and I sent out letters to facilities all over California. And I said, this is what I do. I do medical billing and consulting. And, I got a couple people who reached out to me, and they were like, you're 26 years old. You've been doing this how long? And I said, a couple of years, but I'm really, really good. And here's my, my experience. And I gave my references, but nobody really took me serious. And so I was kind of discouraging, right? So I just continued to work as an employee. And then in early 2000s, my mom had worked in corporate direct sales her whole life for Avon products. And so in the early 2000s, they were hiring some new positions. And my mom said, you could do what I do. You don't want to be in the medical field forever. And I was feeling really discouraged in the medical field. I felt very frustrated. Things were changing pretty rapidly at that time. And I was really good at what I did, but it wasn't something that I saw myself 5-10 years down the road doing. So I said, I'll interview for that job. I said, your job's like a cakewalk, like it's easy. because I worked for her as an assistant on and off. So I thought it was, an easy job. From that position, it was an easy job, but not necessarily from, her role, right? From her assistant role. It was not, I didn't have all the responsibility. So
we always underestimate our parents, right, Stephanie?
Yes,
We're like, what you do is, yes.
I literally told her it was a cakewalk until I got the job. But just backing up a little bit, her boss didn't really care for her. And so when she referred me as a referral, her boss was like, if she's anything like you, I don't know if I would hire her.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. So she interviewed me, and the interview went on for almost 3 hours. And at the end of the interview, she said, "You're nothing like your mother. I love you. You're amazing."
Oh my gosh. That's a trip. That's a trip.
The funny thing is, I'm definitely like my mom, but I have a lot of my dad's charm. And so I know how to charm people pretty good.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, this is going to be fun. So I ended up getting hired. I got offered the position. Was a district sales manager position here locally with Avon Products. And I did really, really well in my position my first year. I ended up finishing top 10 in the nation and top something in the region. And so I was super excited for my accomplishments. I did really well. And they said, you should be a trainer. And so I said, I don't know, so they said, we're going to send you to New York. You're going to train managers that come in. So I started doing that. And that wasn't extra money. It was just extra experience. They didn't pay me to do that. I think they started paying me after a couple of years. So I think we complained, but in the beginning we weren't being paid. And it's like, hey, we're doing extra work. We should be paid. And so I did some training in the classroom as a working manager in the field here, but then going to the classroom in New York and training. And then after a couple of years, they said, you should be a national trainer. So then I got promoted to national trainer, and I flew all over the country. There were only 10 of us at that time. So it was really busy and really crazy. And it was like, I never went home. I was going on the road for like 2 years straight. It felt like, and then I said, I really don't want to do this anymore. So they said, you know what, we don't have a position to move you forward in. So what we'd have to do is move you back into a district. So I ended up going back into a district locally, but it wasn't the same one that I had. And so I was kind of starting over, but that was fine. So I went in there and I did what I did there, and I ended up top in the nation there. I was number one the entire year until the very last quarter. I had really big numbers that I was going over from the prior year, and everything's always based on what you did the prior year. And so if you did really well, you were having to outdo yourself year after year after year. And so that year, that fourth quarter, I fell from number one to number three. And so I finished the year number 3 in the nation. But after that, I think I finally got their attention, and they decided to promote me to a divisional manager. And that's when I got a position working a territory. I got Pacific Northwest. It had 18 managers. It included Alaska, Washington, and part of Oregon. And it was the worst division in the country. I hate to say that, but it was number 45 out of 45.
It was.
And they were like, if anybody can do this, she can. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Right.
But it was a lot of work.
Uh-huh.
And I think I shared with Renee earlier on the kind of the pre-call that I had a team of in the DISC profiles. They are S personalities, which means they're extremely cautious and we're steady in what they do. And I'm a D personality, which means I'm dominant. I'm like, go do this. And we're opposites on the spectrum. We're opposites. So you put me in that room and they were like, this lady's crazy, because I'm just like, let's do this.
Yep.
And they're like, I don't know if I can, and I'm like, but I believe in you.
You and I are so much alike. It's insane. Yeah.
So, but the pressure was a lot for all of us, because I was feeling it from the top, because being at the bottom, never been there before. And then they were feeling it from me. And it just wasn't an environment where I really felt like I was thriving as a leader, or they were thriving in my leadership. And then the company made some serious shifts and decided to move in a different direction, which I'd already kind of seen the writing on the wall, but I didn't know that I would be directly impacted on that. And so it was crazy, because I had a call kind of with Maxwell team, which is what I do now, which is leadership coaching. Mm-hmm. And I had a call with them the week before I got let go from Avon. So I had that call on a Wednesday, and the gal was telling me all about it. And I said, I'm really deep in my business, and I don't think I have time for this. And it sounds phenomenal. I would love to be part of the Maxwell leadership team, but I have this corporate job that it takes all of my life, basically. And she said, well, I'm sorry to hear that. We'll call you back in 3-6 months. that following Monday, I get on my every Monday call with my boss, and she says, well, Stephanie, this morning we have HR on the line. And I knew what that meant.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, we got human resources and my boss on the phone. This is not a good scene.
Yep.
What I should have done is hang up the phone, call my doctor, and go on medical leave. But I didn't think fast enough.
Yeah.
And I said, what is happening? And she said, well, we're moving in a different direction. We have a position for you. It's this position we really have never had before. We don't really know a lot about it, but we think you'd be good at it. I'm like, you don't even know what it is, but you're creating this position, right? And so I got off the phone in shock, and I walked down the hallway and waked my husband up because he was still in bed. And I said, I think I just lost my job. And he said, what? There's no way they would let you go. And I said, well, no, they offered me another position, but I'm not sure that's something I could see myself doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so so then I was like in tears because I was in shock. I mean, anybody would be. You're thinking one day you have a job, the next day you don't. And they said, well, there's another option. There's a severance package. And I'm thinking, wait, is that even an option? So we're sitting outside on the back patio drinking our coffee. And my husband says, well, why don't you just take that severance package and do that Maxwell thing that you were talking about last week? And I said, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so
that's when everything changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Stephanie, how old were you? Because these corporate roles, they define you. They really, really define you. So how old were you at that exact moment?
Oh gosh, it was 2015 years ago. So 46.
Yeah. So Renee and I, as you guys know on our show, we always say that these magical things happen after 40.
Absolutely.
So Stephanie, I don't know if you agree or not. I mean, it doesn't always feel magical, but it's like that magical moment happened, right?
Yep. Because like I said, that week before I was saying, how can I do this? I want this in my life, but I don't have the time. Yep. And there needs to be something removed from my life in order for me to do that.
Right.
And God freed me up. So
it really is. We say that all the time. We say that, and we know for a fact that, there's these God whispers, these taps, and like eventually if you're not following it, he'll throw a brick. It's like, okay, this is what's going to happen.
I told you. Damn it. I told you.
When you see the writing on the wall, it's like, okay, he's telling you, he's showing you, you need another alternative. And
well, so I thought I was done with corporate, right? So I started my Maxwell business, and I had the ball rolling. I literally was traveling to the area where I used to manage for corporate and doing workshops, paid. People were paying me money to sit in the room and learn from me. And I was like, okay, this was easy, right? Because a lot of people that came into Maxwell are like, how do we get people in the room? Yep. And here I just put it out there and people came. And what happened was about 8 months in, a recruiter reached out to me from LinkedIn, and she's like, we have this new startup in the Bay Area, and we need a regional sales director. Well, I knew what that meant. That meant travel. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. I'm not interested in that. And so she said, okay, well, it's a really good company. You should consider it. It's a really good salary. I said, I do not want to travel. Not even 3 months later, they called me back and they said, well, we have a different position at the same company that we want to offer you. So we put the girl who was going to be the trainer in the regional sales position. So we opened up the training position because we want you to come train. So I said, I really don't know if I want to do this because I don't want to commute to the Bay. And she said, well, we'll pay for a hotel for you 4 nights a week so you don't have to go back and forth. And then I said, well, my last job I was making $150,000 a year, which was a little bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah.
And I said, it has to be more than that. She goes, we'll give you 165 plus 30,000 a quarter in bonuses. And I said, I went to my husband, I said, so I'm going to make $120,000 a year in bonuses. I'm going to make $160,000 a year in salary. I'm making almost $300,000 a year. I think I'm going to take this job. Now, let's back up a little bit. Because when I walked away from my corporate job at Avon, I said, I will never do this again. I will never sell my soul for money or a job or a position. Yes. And I did it in this position. Let me just tell you, not even 4.5 months later, God said, I don't think so, sweetheart, and knocked me down. My health, I was down. I went in for a routine hysterectomy 4 months after I started working for this company. My blood pressure was higher than it had ever been. And the doctor who did my hysterectomy damaged my bladder. And I was down for over a year. I couldn't leave my house. I had to wear a catheter for 8 weeks.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, so I think God's trying to tell me something again, and I better listen this time. So when the time came where she said, "Do you want your position back?" I said, "I do not want my position back. I just think I need to move forward on my own dream." I wanted to help her with her dream, but my dream had to become the priority because I hadn't made that a priority for myself. And
Yeah.
obviously,
Mhm.
I wasn't listening. So,
Yeah.
Amen to
Wow.
that. Make your
mhm,
own dreams a priority, right? What a
mhm.
concept. What a
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah. I love that
Yep,
entrepreneurial spirit, but I'm sure
mhm,
that, your years in leadership development, and that's really what led you into the passion that you wanted to continue that and work with
mhm,
others with that
mhm,
same mindset.
mhm,
What was, obviously, so you started this all out though as a single mom. I just want to like go back to that because you were
mhm,
a single mom for a very long time as you were building and working corporate world and working
mhm,
multiple jobs, right? What were
yeah.
some of like the initial challenges that you faced doing it all? Doing it all
Just not having the time that I wanted with my son. In hindsight, I wish I could have been there more. My mom and dad were there a lot to help pick up the pieces for me when he needed to be picked up from karate or needed to be dropped off for this or that. They did that for me a lot because I traveled a lot, especially when I got into corporate. Once I left the medical field and went into corporate direct sales, I was traveling a lot. I mean, once a month we had staff meetings out of town. We had to stay out overnights,
Mm,
and then we did. When I was a trainer, I would travel for like a week every 6 months and travel and be gone away from home. And then, of course, when I was a field trainer, my son was a teenager. He loved it. He
yeah,
thought that was the best thing ever.
right,
When are you
right.
leaving again, Mom?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
I'd come home and my Target card would have $400 additional charges on it from video games he bought with his
Oh
friends,
yeah, yeah.
food vests that he had because
He's
I
now
gave him the
carrying
card.
your
Yes,
bags outside. He's like, "When you going, Mom? I'll help you." Right?
Oh, mom, are
exactly.
you leaving again this week?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
so I
love it.
wish I could have been more involved during those times. That's a hindsight. That's the thing, and having somebody there to kind of be a better role model for him in terms of a male role model. I was there as a female role model,
Yeah.
and I taught my son how to work hard because now that's what he does. He
Hmm.
works just like I do, and I have to keep reminding him that because I would love it if he could join Maxwell with me,
Yeah.
or have his own business as an entrepreneur. Like I keep telling him about real estate because I consult for a real estate agency right now, and I see what these people can do, and I'm like, wow, maybe I should get my license, right? But if I can't do it, then maybe he can do it so that he can, benefit from that. So those are the only things I think in hindsight that I really wish I could be different was the time that I had with him, and so I try to make that up now with my grandchildren. I
Right.
have three grandchildren, and I have my grandson, my oldest grandson, 4 days a week. I used to have my granddaughter full time for her first 2.5 years. She's now 4. And then my middle grandson, he has a different mom, which makes a whole crazy dynamic because the
Mm.
oldest and the youngest have the same mom. So you all figure that out. So it
Y'all
makes
do the
it a little.
math. Y'all do the math. But all that ends well, I mean, all that is well ends well. What is it called?
Yep.
Yeah.
But Stephanie, I was thinking about your journey, and I know whenever we met, Chris was just really young, and my babies were little. But I also
18
feel
years
like
ago, Sierra. 18
no,
years
I
ago.
can't believe it. Don't say that word. We're not that old. Um, we're not that old. But I also remember like your 40th birthday. Okay. Anyways, we can talk about all these
No,
things
no,
later.
no.
But I feel like you are where you're supposed to be at this time because
Mhm,
of what you do for Chris to support
mhm,
him with his
mhm,
babies.
mhm,
And yes, you always want more whenever you're a mom when they're younger, but sometimes our kids don't realize how much they need us when they're older.
mhm,
Mhm.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
that is something that is completely, totally priceless, is the
Mhm,
time that you're able to give them now. And it's because of all the hard work that you put into it during his childhood,
mhm,
which he might not understand that or realize it at this very moment, but I know that he's starting to.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right, I mean, I can't go back and change the
Mhm.
way things were at that time, but all I can do now is in moving forward is, give for him what I can. And to your point, I mean, this probably is more than anything he could ever ask for because I am there for his kids so much. And even,
Yeah.
the one his middle child, Roman, I'm there for him a lot too because it's a different dynamic, as you know.
We
And
could have a
so,
whole show on dealing with baby mamas
yeah,
and moms with sons. We could also have a show, Renee, right? Moms with daughters.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I would love to see her, because I don't have a daughter. I have a granddaughter, and boy, she is like got me wrapped around her finger like nobody's business. And that's why I think when she becomes a teenager, I'm going to have to relocate. Because she's going to be having, she'll get whatever she wants from her Nana.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how it
Aw.
works. Okay, so now we're at the point, Stephanie, where John Maxwell, it is your decision. You're, you're dealing with health issues, and I know the health issues hasn't gotten better, but you are learning to deal with them. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know so much has happened on the health side since the hysterectomy and the discovery of other things. I would love for you just to share a little bit of that journey, because people need to be aware of this stuff. I don't think that people realize.
Yeah. So my hysterectomy, luckily, after about 2 years, my bladder was finally, I have overactive bladder now because of it. But other than that, everything else is pretty good. But what happens is I have a condition that I was actually born with. It's genetic. My mom had it and she's passed away from it. It's called polycystic kidney disease. And what happens is as we get older, right, you're born with it, it's in your genes. As you get older, the disease progresses and your kidneys become covered with cysts. So hence polycystic. And you might have heard of polycystic ovarian syndrome. That is a condition where women get cysts on their ovaries, and it can cause hormones to be more active, and they can get hair growth and things like that, which is horrible. And then there's also something called polycystic liver disease. And that's where your liver can also get covered in cysts. And a lot of people like myself who have polycystic kidney disease also develop polycystic liver, and I have both. Polycystic liver disease is not as serious for most people who have it. It's not as serious. There are some people who've required both a liver transplant and a kidney transplant.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Right. And I know a woman in my group that I follow that has had a transplant of both. My mom, her kidneys failed at 53. I'm 56. So, 3 years earlier, so younger than I am now. She already had kidney failure. She went on dialysis in 2005. So 20 years ago, in March. So, in like 10 days, it'll be an anniversary of her transplant. She was given a kidney by a total stranger. So this is what's so crazy. In 1999, my mom went to visit her sister in Idaho. She'd never been there before. And while in Idaho, this town of Riggins, population 400 people, okay, 400 people in this little bitty town. My mom makes the decision to buy this property that had been on the market for like 5 years. And she calls my dad and she's like, I bought this house on the river in Idaho in Riggins. And my dad's like, wait, what? She's like, it's going to be our retirement property. Now, this is 1999, okay? She was still working for corporate. She was still very healthy at the time. In 2001, so 2 years later, is when she found out that she needed to go on dialysis. When she found that out, everything about her plans to retire in Idaho changed. Because living in a town of 400, the hospital 2 hours away, and a dialysis facility 3 hours away, there's no way that she's going to be able to go there. So she decided to do what's called home dialysis, where she could do dialysis every day, but do it in her home. And she was healthy enough that she could do that. So she ended up traveling to Idaho during the summers, and she would ship all the dialysis materials that she needed to do dialysis there. And so she could still go there in the summers. So her and my dad were there one year. This is probably 2004, sometime 2003, in the summer. And she was there. She had opened up a little gift shop on part of their property. And my granny ran that gift shop. Well, this lady walks in one day and she's asking about the store. And my granny says, oh yeah, my daughter owns it. It's only open during the summer because she lives in California, and she tells her the whole story. And she's in the other room, but she's on dialysis. And the lady starts asking questions about dialysis and why is she on dialysis. And my granny tells her, and I guess, this lady heard the story and then she leaves. 2 weeks later, she comes back to the store and my mom has already gone back to California. And she comes in and she tells my granny, So I heard, the story you told me about your daughter. And she's like, yes. She's like, I want to give your daughter a kidney. And my grandmother's like, okay, lady. And she's like, here's my phone number. Have your daughter call me. My granny calls my mom and says, this crazy lady came into my store today. And she
I have goosebumps because
Oh my
that's a
total
powerful
stranger. Right.
Yeah.
stranger. So this is why my mom bought the house, okay? Because I always think to myself, why did this house even become a house? Because we can't ever go there, right? So my grandmother calls my mom, puts my mom in contact with this lady. Her name is Carol Barner. And Carol flew out to California. My mom paid for her to come out to UCSF, get tested. Perfect blood, perfect tissue, perfect. Every single thing was perfect. So my mom got a kidney 20 years ago this month and got given life. And she had 12 years with that kidney.
Wow.
So unfortunately, my mom's blood pressure was really high all the time. And that's one of the things that kills your kidney. So if you have high blood pressure, you need to get that sucker under control because that will kill your kidney. Blood pressure will kill your kidney. So my mom's blood pressure could never get under control. She was on 4 or 5 different medications and she still could never get it under control. So that new kidney, it got worn out quick. So your mom, it only lasted 12 years.
Did you say your mom had the kidney and the liver polycystic?
Yeah.
I know I'm not saying.
She
Okay,
had
so
both.
she did have both. So is the liver hereditary too, or is it more just the kidney and sometimes the liver just gets affected?
That's a great question that I don't know the answer to, but it's very common for people who have polycystic kidney to also have polycystic liver. And they've identified the gene for polycystic kidney disease, but I don't know that they've identified the genetics connection for the liver.
So you know, like, is it a conversation between you and your son for like your grandkids to be tested or for him to be tested or your ex daughter-in-laws or daughter-in-laws or girlfriends of baby mamas, are they on board of knowing as well?
So that's a really good question. So my son is 35 this year. He turned 35 in January.
And this is
And
when
typically,
what age were you, Stephanie? Yeah, you were like in your early.
I was 33 when I found out. I went in. How I found out was when my mom said I need a donor. I was first in line.
Yeah.
I said, okay, you can have my kidney.
Yeah.
So I went in, and when I got my ultrasound, they ultrasounded one kidney and it looked perfectly healthy. I rolled over to the other side, and as soon as she put that on my kidney, I could see the cyst. And I said, what is that on that kidney? And she goes, I'm not supposed to tell you as the tech, but that is a cyst.
Wow.
And I said, holy. And she said, you are not going to be able to donate to your mom. And I was just bawling.
Yeah.
I wasn't bawling because I had the disease. I was bawling because I couldn't get my mom
help your mom.
Nothing. It didn't even hit me that I had this disease until I went to UCSF with my mom, and I was there with my oldest brother who's no longer with us, my aunt, my dad, and myself, my mom. We were all there, and the nurse said to my brother when he said, I want to give my mom a kidney, he goes, oh, no. You're going to need to save your kidney for your sister.
Oh my God.
That's when I was
like,
wait,
I have this.
Yeah, that's when it really hit me. And I told myself at that time that I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to do everything in my power, whatever it is I need to do to keep myself healthy so that I don't end up like my mom. So every year I had an ultrasound every single year to watch my progression of my condition. I had lab work on a regular basis because what happened to my mom was she was going into her kidney specialist every 3-6 months. And he would go, okay, all right, well, everything's good. Go on your way. One day she walked in and he goes, oh, well, it looks like it's time to get on the transplant list. And she was like, wait, what? There wasn't like, hey, you're at 30%. Hey, you're at 32%. Hey, you're at...
Yeah, where was the progression?
Yeah, there was no progression. So for me, I have a timeline from 2001 to today that can show you how my kidney function has progressed over time. So I know exactly where I'm at. And I've had ultrasounds to see the size of my kidneys and if they're enlarging. Now, I want to get an MRI, but I'm scared to death. I'm claustrophobic. I had an experience as a kid that made me very scared of being in small spots. And so I'm not over that yet. And I can't get in that MRI machine. But if I could get a better idea of the size of my kidneys and they get what's called TKV, which is total kidney volume. And based on the TKV,
I was going to finish what you're saying, and I'm going to give you a tip for the MRI. Okay.
Okay. So on the TKV is that they say that they can project based on the size of your kidney
Wow.
when your kidneys will fail. And so,
Wow.
in a way, I think this is God's way of protecting me from knowing this information because I don't really,
Sometimes knowing it's not, I mean, like the internet, we can just know things, but sometimes always having that information isn't, I mean, if you can't handle it, it can be more stressful, right?
Yeah. So speaking about my son, so he hasn't been tested today, right now, as we are doing this, getting an ultrasound of his kidneys.
Oh, wow.
Stephanie, oh my
Mhm.
God.
That's
Okay.
wonderful.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
Prayers,
So we're gonna know for
prayers,
sure and pray
prayers.
that he is clear because at 35 years old, if there are no cysts on his
Yes.
kidneys, this disease will end with me.
Oh, baby.
oh gosh,
It's
praying so
hard.
hard. But
Mhm.
won't you? So, okay, I know the MRI is, that's tough, and I'm not
Mhm.
downplaying that. But we know knowledge is power,
Mhm.
and would it benefit you knowing, or are
I don't
you really like, I don't want to know?
in a way, I kind of don't want to know because I feel like, like right now, my kidney functions in the 40%. Okay.
Yeah.
I had a scare in October. I got super dehydrated. I got really sick off a medication that I was on. And I ended up in the ER and my kidney function fell below 30. That was scary. And the doctor said, I think you'll be okay if you can get rehydrated. I think you'll get back to the 40s again. And thank God I did. But the one thing that's really tough about this disease too is that because the filtration is not clean, right? Because it's going through all this cyst. Phosphorus can be affected, sodium can be affected, potassium can be affected. And so I have to really watch the intake of all of those things.
Wow.
Anything with phosphorus, I have to really stay away from. Anything with oxalates like almonds, spinach, I have to stay away from. Because, and you think, oh, those are healthy things. You should eat those.
This is probably why your mom had because the education piece of it, she didn't have
Bingo.
that. And you have dove into the
Mhm.
education piece, knowing that sodium and phosphorus, and then what's phosphorus? And you're like, spinach. Okay, you're thinking spinach is like this almighty, like you put it in your
Yep.
shake, you put it in
Yep.
a salad.
Yep.
It's great for
Superfood.
somebody
Yeah,
who has
oxalates are really bad for people with kidney
yes.
disease. Oxalates are not filtered well through your kidneys if you have kidney disease. And oxalates are things like almonds and spinach, which I used to eat a lot of both of those things.
Wow.
And as soon as I found out and stopped eating them, it
Yep.
made a difference in my numbers.
Wow.
Okay,
So
so we're
how
going
do
to
you
pray.
want?
We're going to pray for.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Renee. Go ahead.
I was like, how do you want to continue to get, that message out? Is there anything that you have planned? Anything like, how can people support it? Go ahead, Sierra. You're like,
before she dives into that, because that is the miraculous story. And this is what I love so much about Stephanie is when she is fucking passionate about something, God dang it, she goes full fucking board.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love her for that forever and ever. Okay, before we do, when my dad had cancer, Stephanie, and I know that your mom has passed, so I know that she has had, and you and I, it is so hard for us to talk about the two people that were our rocks. When he had cancer, he was claustrophobic because he almost drowned, so he couldn't have anything on or near his face, and he had to have that mask when he had the tumor. And something that he taught me, that he said, I have to do this, because he had to have that radiation on that tumor in his brain, because he didn't want to die from other causes. Like, he knew the cancer was going to kill him, but he didn't want a tumor to make him like crazy or weird or do something. So he really wanted to get this done. And he counted out the songs. So he knew that he had to be in there for 15 minutes, and he had to have the mask on, but he closed his eyes before they even put him in, and he listened to the song. And after the song was over, he told himself that was 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And he told them exactly what songs he wanted, and he would just sing them in his head. And that's 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The next song, there's 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That's 5 minutes. Okay, I got 10 more minutes to go. I have 12 more songs, or whatever it was. And he said it worked. And then, so when I had to have my MRI with everything going on, I could not, as soon as I see it, I was like, so they laid me and there was like this beautiful serenity. And I looked up at that and I wore one of those like mask, the things that put it on my eyes and just went into the music, and it did help a lot. I just focused on the music, not on the sounds, not where I was. And do not open up your eyes. And I know that's so hard to tell somebody, but I'm like, if my dad, who was severely claustrophobic, could find a way to master it because it was so important to him. And right now it's not so important to you, but if it ever does become important to you, maybe that little tip.
And my MRI would take 45 minutes, just FYI. That's a lot of songs.
Well, it would be a lot of songs.
Yeah.
It's a lot of songs.
But and I have to be awake and alert because I have to hold my breath and do different things in order to get the different views. So that was one of the things. But I panicked because what happened to me was when I was little, I used to go over to this people's house that down the street from us, and the little boys, there was 2 boys and they were really ornery kids. They had me lay down on a rug and they rolled me up in a rug when I was like 7 years old. And I freaked out because you couldn't move. I couldn't move. I couldn't get out. I couldn't roll out. No. And I freaked out. And so I have that, like, that is where my fear comes from. If I could get past that experience, I think I could be fine. But that is where it comes from. So it is something that is like deep in my,
when something is deep in your, when something
the other good thing with MRIs is they do pull you out if you just push a little button and they pull you out immediately.
Well, they started putting me in, and then when I started panicking, they're like, bring her out.
And they will give you they'll give you a Xanax if you need one ahead of time too, just like for the audience if you're listening. But okay, so now Renee, back to your question. What has Miss Stephanie done? Because what she has done for this disease is absolutely incredible. So Stephanie, take us from there. Now you're aware, now you're going. Now, what are all the things that you're doing?
So in 2021, when my mom passed away, I was like, okay, and I should have done it sooner. So, but hindsight's 2020, right? But when my mom passed away, I started searching out organizations. I'm like, there has to be supporting organizations out there for this disease. And of course, I found the PKD Foundation. There's actually a foundation that was founded in the 70s. And so I reached out to them and I said, what do you all have for people to help and to give back? And so they said, we have an advocacy program called Advocacy Champion Network. And I said, well, what do they do? And they said, well, they testify before Congress and Senate to get legislation to protect living donors, to educate, and also to get funds from the government to do further research on the condition, looking for obviously a cure or medications or whatever you can to prolong your life with this disease. And so I thought, wow, that's awesome. Sure, I can do that. And so in 2021, I joined the advocacy, and I've been an advocacy champion ever since. And every year in March or April, depending on when the schedule is, and this month they put it in March, which on my calendar in March is crazy. So I come home from the Maxwell event on the 19th. On the 20th, I do advocacy virtually with Congress. Then on the 21st, I have an appointment at UCSF with my first time going there. It's a center of excellence for PKD. And I get to be a patient there. So I'm super excited. I was referred and they accepted me. Yeah. So, but the advocacy work that I do, so what I do there is I share my story, right? And I share stories of other patients and let people know, and people in power, our Congress, our senators, know the needs of people with this condition. There's over 600,000 Americans with this disease. And dialysis is one of the most expensive things out there treatment-wise. And my goal, where I really am passionate is about transplants, about educating people that they can give a kidney and still live. There are 40,000 Americans plus that are waiting for a kidney right now. And I just think about the millions of Americans that are out there and how we could knock that out in just like quick. I mean, 40,000, you think about, that's a huge number, but that's not millions, that's thousands. Right? Yeah. So it's like we could do this, and a person could live with one kidney a healthy life. Like Carol, my mom's donor, she's 80 years old and she is like healthy, and she's living a wonderful life in Alaska with her grandkids and her family. I mean, and she gave life to my mom, no questions asked, just gave her a kidney, not expecting anything in return.
Wow.
I don't know if the audience knows, and Stephanie, I know that you know, I opted in to donate. And you guys, it's super, super easy. If you've ever, I mean, and you don't even need to know this person. If you just have a heart to give or to give life in any way, they pay for the whole process, the kidney center. You just have to show up and say, hey, I'm willing to give a kidney for whoever I might be a match for. And me being O positive, I can pretty much be a match for anybody. So I went through the whole process, and I went through, and I felt so good about it. There was no question about it because they had my back. They knew, they're like, hey, we're going to test this. And I mean, when they say they test everything, they test everything. I got kicked out, you guys, at the very, very end. And I sat on my knees and cried because the kidney that I had a stone in one of my kidneys. So they were going to give her the kidney that had the stone because they were going to protect me to keep me with the good one, right? That's how much they protect the living donors. But I was susceptible to them. So the likelihood that I would get one in my other one was very, very high. So that would put me at risk if I kept getting kidney stones in my only one kidney. So they do everything, but going through the process, it's really not a lot of time. A lot of people think that it's a lot of time, but it takes like 10, 20 minutes. In some cases, you just got to show up and show blood on like a regular basis. And if you have a hospital near you in a bigger city, it's really, really simple. And it doesn't matter where you live. So for example, and Stephanie and I, we share this all the time. I had a friend who lived here in Texas, and her donor was in California. And just like Stephanie's mother, her donor was in Idaho, and she lived in California. So you could show up anywhere and be a donor at any given place. They will provide and fly you there. So if it is on your heart to serve in any way, shape, or form, just know that they will have your back. But all you do is just say, I want to try. And at the very end, if you decide not to, you can just
you can
dip. You just say, nope, never mind. That's on you. But you could go through that process and see if you're even capable of being a donor. Because not everybody's going to be capable of being one.
Well, what's awesome, what they do now, Sierra, is they do what's called a donor chain. So let's say, for example, you were healthy enough to give me a kidney and you got tested and you don't match me, but you match this kidney person over here that needs one. They'll give it to that person, and then that person's donor goes to the next person, and that matches. And it's like a chain. I know a gal, the one I mentioned that had a liver and kidney transplant. She was part of a 20 kidney chain.
Wow.
20 people got donated. All it takes is that one kidney to kind of trigger that,
that
domino of kidneys. And I was like, that is so amazing. And then I don't know if you guys have probably heard about the pig transplant. They've been testing kidneys from pigs. Now, am I excited to have a kidney from a pig? Not really, but I'll tell you what, if my choice is dialysis or a pig kidney, I will take the pig kidney. Not lying.
Well, honestly, Stephanie, that's where insulin comes from. Insulin comes from the pigs. And like my husband would not live if it wasn't for those pigs giving the insulin to him. And I know that sounds so, I mean, some of it is lab created, but it's pigs.
And so how does somebody find out more information or sign up, register, or start the process?
So if you wanted to be a living donor, you could go to the PKD Foundation website, and right there has all the information. Just type in living donor and it'll give you all the information you need.
Beautiful.
In fact, the PKD Foundation website, let me give you that. Let me look that up because it's not like PKD Foundation.
You make sure to send it to us, Stephanie, and everybody, to our audience, just know that we will link it below, and then we'll also link it whenever we launch the Spotify and Apple, so you guys can grab that and share that with anybody who might have that on their heart.
So that's where I'm at right now. It's like I'm super passionate about education and letting people know about this, because a lot of people don't even know they have this condition. Now, I belong to a couple Facebook groups that were started by, people who said, oh, I have this disease. I want to get people together that have this disease, because like with my mom, she didn't know anybody that had this disease. No one in our family had it. It mutated with my mom. And then I got it from my mom. And if my son doesn't have it, it ends with me.
Wow.
Because there's no chance that it's a 50-50 chance. Okay. Me having it gives him a 50-50 chance of having it. If he doesn't have it, it does not skip generations.
That's
So it won't
wonderful.
be my grandchildren. I know. So I'm praying that it's
Yeah, yeah.
no, it doesn't
Please,
have anything.
you got to keep us posted because
I
I
will.
really pray. Yeah.
Now you're vested, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I pray he doesn't have
So,
it.
Stephanie, what's next for you? I mean,
Yeah.
you are just on such an adventure roller coaster. What's next for you? What are your next steps? What are you hoping to accomplish and do
I mean, with my business, I mean,
with
obviously for
everything?
more clients. But right now I'm doing a lot of volunteer work in my community. I just joined the local Kiwanis, Sunrise Kiwanis, and I'm doing volunteer work with them. And then I also belong to my local chamber. But for me, I mean, like I said, my passion right now is really education and getting people to know more about, the being a living donor and getting that out there because there are so many people who could benefit from that.
And
Oh,
if somebody is in business or owns a business and they
Mhm.
want some coaching from you, how do they connect with you, or how do you support them? Like, make sure to share your Instagram. Like, is it just Stephanie
Mhm.
Montalvo? Do you have a specific
So my Instagram is Stephanie Leads Two. Just all one word, Stephanie Leads Two,
love
the number
it.
two. And my Facebook page for my business is just my name, Stephanie Montalvo Leadership Consultant. So it's real easy to find me. I don't do TikTok yet. I'm not on TikTok yet.
I
But
keep telling our people.
I know Sierra can't believe I'm not on TikTok, but I'm not. But one day I will be. But right now,
If
that's
it's
kind of
safe,
where you can
if
find
it's
me. And
safe,
I am on
girl.
LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn also under my
LinkedIn
name,
is a
just
good,
Stephanie
yeah.
Montalvo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
amazing.
That's
And
one.
so as far as coaching goes, if you can get a discovery call with me. I do a 20 to 30-minute free discovery call to make sure that we would
Yeah.
work together. I mean, because this is the thing about coaching. You really want to make sure it's a right fit for both of you. I don't just take on every client that talks to me because I have to know that this is someone that I'm going to be able to work with and develop and that's coachable.
Yeah.
And so through that discovery call, that's where I really figure it all out. And so that's a free thing that you can take advantage of. I also do some other services like Leadership Game. That's a game that I can come into your office or your business and we sit down and we play a board game that's all about leadership and communication. It's a lot of fun. It gets people talking about things that they might not otherwise talk about.
Yeah.
And then the
I think
other
all
thing is,
companies need this,
I
Stephanie.
know,
Like, all
hey,
Yeah.
companies who have a
Yeah.
well, and
leadership
I do
team.
diversity training. So, and this is
That's
the new
fun.
kind of diversity, right? So the new kind of diversity is not about culture so much as it's about generational diversity. So I'm a boomer, I'm an X, I'm a Z, I'm a Y, whatever you are, because right now we've got 5 generations in the
Yeah.
workplace. And we
Yeah.
all have different work ethics. We all have different ways that we speak,
Yeah.
we communicate, and the way we think is different, the way we do things is different. And so I come in and I kind of bring it together and I say, this is how we can speak the language that we can all understand and help people recognize that just because a millennial is a certain way, it doesn't make them a bad person or
Yeah.
Z
Yeah.
is a different, they have value. Just the thing that with John that teaches us and that we really, our system is built on is we value all people,
Right.
no matter what, no matter how, where you come from. And, we see value in everyone. So that's
I
kind of what we
love
teach.
that. I love that. And please send us the website for the PKD so that we can
I
put
will.
that in the notes as well. Stephanie, you're a love. I love your journey. I love your
Thanks.
spirit, and I love the fact that how much good you do for others.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's what I'm all about. I always have been. I always want to give back. I always want to do
Yeah.
more, be more,
You can tell.
and serve more. So that's kind of my motto.
Absolutely.
You could tell.
Yep. That's who
Thanks.
she is, people. So make sure you follow and support. And then we're all going to want to
Thank
make
you.
sure we get a follow up and we know for sure, what's going on with
I
Chris.
know. I'm getting anxious myself. So
yeah. And I hope that we've just educated people to not be scared, to just at least consider just seeing if you are a candidate. It doesn't mean you
Yep.
have to, but the world can change, one person at a time. If you have
one other thing I want to mention really quick that I'm trying to get
Yeah.
past is that and this is what's on the agenda for next week's advocacy is getting a rebate, a tax rebate to the donors. So they would get like $5,000 rebate
that's
on their taxes.
amazing.
Yeah, because they're giving life. Let's give them a
Yes.
rebate on their
They're
taxes.
giving life, they're taking time out of their life to heal, to go
Yes.
through the process. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they pay people to do like my husband got paid to get pictures of his eyes because he's diabetic and he has a tumor. So they said
Part of a
you're a perfect
study.
candidate because and so they paid him. So if we can get paid to do to be in clinicals, why would we not get some kind of support for giving life?
Right.
They
Like,
don't want to.
I
They don't
wish you
want to
luck on
pay
that.
people for organs, right? So they
Right.
don't want.
Right.
They don't want
Yes.
the perception that, hey, you donate, you get money. That's not how it works. You
Yeah.
get like like deductions or like rebates back. So you're getting, it comes through your taxes. So that looks a
Yes.
little more, not like you're getting paid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it.
Yep.
Thank you. So
All right. Well,
so
thank you for
much.
having me. I really enjoyed chatting with y'all.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Unapologetically Badass. And we will see you on the next one. Have a great day, all. All right, Queens, that's a wrap for today's episode. But before you hit pause, let's talk about you and how we can help you slay every part of your life. If you're ready to feel fabulous and look like $1,000,000, I've got you covered with my badass queen coaching, sparkling touchstone crystal jewelry, and Bella Grace collagen, because glowing skin and a sparkly vibe, that's a power move. Check it all out at ReneeCarbonefleming.com. And my co-host Sierra, oh yeah, she's bringing the heat too. Not only is she rocking Bella Grace collagen for her glow game, but she's also the queen of chic with her fabulous clothing boutique. From boosting your wellness to leveling up your wardrobe, Sierra's got the magic to help you shine inside and out. Check her out at Linktree/Sierra Whitener 7. So here's the deal. Head to our websites, grab the goods that'll help you live your best life, and let's make everything about you unapologetically badass. And hey, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with your fellow queens, because the more sparkle in the world, the better. Until next time, keep glowing, keep slaying, and remember, you're a badass queen who deserves it all.